Canada. So
Okay. So, all right. So I guess what we're here for is to talk about for do talk about Do Not Disturb
hey.
because it's now on streaming platforms, which is exciting. Because you had a really great run with the festival circuit.
Yeah, we had a fun little run. We were lucky enough to open here in our hometown of Miami at Popcorn Frights, which is just like a
Mhm.
super awesome festival run by a guy who kind of like really loves genre films. And not just horror films, but like genre films. So it's like it's he really kind of like embraces everyone and really kind of like tries to create a community, which is great. And then we went over to Fright Fest, I think 5 days later,
Mhm.
which is where we got like the big sort of, Fright Fest is a pretty big festival. And so it was nice. It was nice to like premiere and play in a theater kind of like a block from where the movie takes place. And then, stumble out and have drinks where Chloe and Jack might have had drinks. That's kind of fun that way.
That is fun.
Yeah.
But so it's set in Miami, but you said you did the interiors all in Canada.
Yeah. So we're the film we shot in a small town called Sault Ste. Marie in Canada. Um, and we shot the hotel rooms in about 10 days and then the club scene and the restaurant scenes in one day. So it's kind of fun dressing and lighting for Miami. And then we came down to Miami and shot all the beach scenes and the credit sequence and things like that.
Yeah, so that was my next question was how many days were you in that hotel room? So 10.
Not enough.
Not,
Yeah,
oh
we
no?
moved. No, I mean, if I could have, if I ever can have like a 20 plus shoot day schedule, I will. No, it was quick. Like we were doing 12 to 14 page days, which is quite a bit for both the heavy dramatic scenes and for the effects scenes, which take forever. Um, so yeah, I mean, we went in really easy, hard, and we started with like the main when they enter the hotel room was the first thing we shot, and then we did that whole the night of argument in the afternoon, which is like pretty much stepping into everything right away for the actors. So it's a lot. It was like it's tough, and you kind of adapt the way you shoot to that.
And did the
Like,
actors know each other previously?
nope, no,
No,
they met. I think they met the night or 2 nights before shooting. We
really?
all went out for dinner. My wife produced the film, and the four of us went out for dinner. Maybe the night before or 2 nights before. I can't remember which. Yeah, I mean, I think they had spoken on telephone and emails and that kind of stuff. But yeah, no, they never met.
Well, that just speaks to how well they did because it immediately feels lived in. The relationship feels familiar, I think, to probably a lot of
Yeah.
women. And so I know your wife worked with you on this, and I'm just curious how much input she had, in the screenplay.
Well, quite a bit. I mean, she's giving me notes for 8 years, so little things will, pop. It's impossible to measure, but yeah, I mean, it's quite a bit because you're always talking, and then as you go through prep, you're like discussing everything. And before the actors and the cinematographer or the editor come on, I'm dealing everything with her, building everything. So quite a bit, I would think. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I don't. It's really hard because it's like it took so long to get this thing to camera. So it's like I'm just trying to like think back in my head. But it's like what it is though. It's the tiny details that would never come to me in a lot of ways. And I think those tiny details kind of add up in a weird way. And it's just sort of like little things about relationships or being a woman that would never occur to me naturally. Like I could probably come up with some of them just observationally, but not. So it's those little like things or just a line of dialogue or a reaction. Having Chloe react angry rather than like afraid or one of those things.
Yeah, Chloe, especially when she has to literally clean up their mess, it's really funny as a mom, especially to just see as she just takes care of it. She starts
Yeah.
mothering him and just takes care of the situation, and he just falls back into the child mode. And I thought this is really just putting your finger on a thing that women complain about incessantly all the time.
Yeah.
So how long had this been brewing, the story and the film, and how long did it take you to get it from A to B?
It took forever. Felt like forever. In 2012 was my original, like, I sat down, like 2012, I was sitting in a conference and I wrote down the words, honeymoon couple develop cannibal sex fetish.
As you do.
And yeah, I mean, I don't know what brought that on necessarily. I can trigger sort of like watching Altered States, way too young. I traveled through Mexico. Um, and that, you know, rubbed off a lot of ways. And then I kind of wrote out a first draft that wasn't too dissimilar from the final product. It was like more gag heavy and less relationship heavy.
Mhm.
And then I sort of reworked that. And it took place in Mexico originally. And there was this whole village of half-eaten people who were like using this peyote ceremoniously at this like strange Aztec Christian combination church. And there was this whole like, but you know, on my budget, building an entire village full of half-eaten people was not quite in the budget. So I'd rewritten it, but then and then at one point I rewrote it from Mallorca, and then COVID hit and that production went away, and we ended up doing this one during COVID. So, and then I moved, and then all that, my wife and I moved to Miami, so we just set it in Miami to make it easy to shoot and fun. So yeah.
That's, it's interesting. It's a COVID film because there's a lot of horror films that you kind of watch and you think this is a COVID film.
Hmm.
Like you can tell, that there was a lot of what are the word, a lot of things were prohibitive at that time. But this feels
Oh yeah.
just natural because it's them in their hotel room going through a relationship that it seems was over before they even walked through that door.
Well, I don't know about over, but I think people get comfortable in relationships, so it's like it's easier to stay than it is to leave sometimes.
Yeah.
Um, and I think after you go like a decade or so into a relationship, it's like that little, you know, whatever that is ties together even further, especially if that relationship starts at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
I think because it's like they haven't dated a lot of other people, so it's like there's that too. And then I think for Chloe, and that was a big part of casting Kim and writing that character closer to 40 than 20, was her kind of being stuck in this relationship, because if her ultimate goal is to have kids and start a family, and she's, you know, 36, 37, 38, there's like a limited time to like dump this guy and meet a new guy and build a relationship and have kids. So that sort of like the clock's ticking for her, and I think she's sort of like trying to make this work rather than starting over.
So in the original script, was she always closer to 40?
um I don't know, actually. I don't think I had quite an age in mind. And then there was a lot of like opportunities to make the film younger, um, which I was never quite interested in, because I
Mm.
think it would have changed a lot. I mean, it was a totally, both those opportunities would have been an entirely different film that I don't even know if I'm capable of making. but but they might have sold better. So yeah, I don't know. It's I'm not I don't know if that's kind of the film I want to make just for the sake of making a film. So I said no. Um, and I think, I don't know when that kind of happened, but that was definitely like, I mean, I don't know, because even during casting, there were some options. We opened it to anyone and everyone, because it was more about like just finding the talent and making the script fit to the talent, especially at our budget where you're completely limited. And luckily we got Kim, because Kim was amazing.
No, Kim's
Um,
amazing.
yeah,
Does
no,
she?
we were really lucky. Like we looked at, I literally, I know I looked at over a thousand tapes of people, um,
Really?
and there was two that I liked, and Kim was one. And Kim came out of nowhere because I didn't really know Kim, aside from a chance encounter like 6-7 years ago at an after party where I was out of money and just kind of like sad. And I just wandered over to the bar, and she just wandered at the same time, and she bought me a shot, and we did a shot of Jameson, and then she walked away. And that's like, I don't even think she said words to me. And then we didn't talk for like 5-6 years until we hopped on the phone. And it was funny because I saw her on my agency's roster, and I was like, I asked my agent who reps her, and my agent was like, I do. And then I was like, oh, well, give her the script. And then Kim and I talked for about 4 hours on the phone the first time. And maybe that was because of COVID, because that was in the middle of COVID where you weren't allowed to leave your house. So
Yeah, it
maybe
was
we were just
exciting.
chatting. But it's funny because we didn't really chat about the scripts very much. It was all about like ex relationships and life and just weird things. And then we got off the phone and my agent's like, well, what does she think about the script? I'm like, I don't know. Like, she gets it. Like, it doesn't really matter. And then from that point forward, she kind of built Chloe. I mean, I try to write very specifically so that you can read my script and have, which way to go. And then hopefully I've written specific enough that when people bring their ideas to it, it builds on what I'm already launching them towards rather than branching, which I learned the hard way. And on this one, it sort of worked really well. Rogan had a little trouble with Jack at first because I think he tried to play him as a douchebag or like an asshole. And I was like, no, no, no. And him and I really went through multiple like scenarios of who Jack was and built like jobs and training and past this and that. And we came up, and it's when I said the word man child that he's kind of like clicked. And then that was it. And he acts like a child through the entire film.
He really, really does. I rewatched the film last night, and I mean, I think I hate him. So, congratulations on that performance.
Well, that was a challenge because I didn't want you to hate him necessarily right away. I
No.
wanted you to dislike him, but he's
Right.
also very similar to it. Like, I mean, the amount of men under the age of 30 who I've had come up to me and say, like, I can't watch this film with my fiance because she's going to dump me because there's too much of me in this guy. It's quite high. And I didn't want it was so what I couldn't have him be a nice guy because then you'd want him to live, or you'd want Chloe to be with him, and then she would seem like a bitch. So it was a matter of like, and then not making Chloe too mousy or like tolerating of his bullshit, so that you try to give her enough push to make it feel real, and then because she has to find her agency, she can't have it at the beginning. So that was the hardest part, and that's probably the part that I worked on with my wife the most is how, because it was like she doesn't want to do drugs. And I mean, the early drafts read like she was this mousy woman who's never done drugs and afraid to do them. And I was like, well, that's not quite what this is.
Yeah.
So, and it's really kind of hard on paper to translate that. Because once you give it to Kim and Kim gets it, Kim just does it and you film it and you go. But on paper, that was the biggest challenge of this entire film, actually, was explaining to people what I was doing when it was on paper, because so much of it was in my head. In terms of the comedy and the blend of like reality and the mundane. So it's kind of it was big. It was explaining it to people was difficult. I don't think anyone really understood until they saw it too.
Yeah, it is kind of hard to explain, because especially if you use the word cannibalism, I think you just immediately lose a certain fraction of people. Which, I mean, cannibalism will get me in the chair. And so I was really, really pleasantly surprised at how smart and layered this was, and wasn't just cannibalism.
Well, it's tough. Like Raw did it well as well. But it's hard
Yeah.
because you say cannibalism and then the people who want to finance your movie want cannibalism, and this movie doesn't really live up to the gore expectations. I mean, there's good gore at the last bit, but if you're a gore hound, this isn't necessarily you're going to be fast forwarding, I think.
Maybe. I feel like I think it yeah. It fits really nice into the genre of good for her films, though.
Yeah.
And I just, your first film, also The Sublet, I really loved, because again, it felt really just informed about what women think and feel, and it really captured what being alone with your baby is like. It's strangely isolating. And so now here you are again with this really just intuitive look at women. And so I just, I'm curious why you choose that. And especially with this film, did you find that maybe metaphors and meanings and cannibalism kind of started to weave together more than they had initially?
Yeah, definitely like things we were discovering things as we were shooting. And like Scott and I talked about light a lot, but if you look at the film, and I'll come back to the point of this question, I got sidetracked right away.
I asked too many questions at
Immediately.
one time.
um, no, like Scott and I about like day two kind of realized, I mean, we always wanted Chloe close to the window and close to the light, like she opens the drapes, this kind of stuff. But we were realizing that like Jack, the character, bled into Rogan, and he was doing this thing where he would stand in front of her often and steal her frame. Um, and it would really annoy him. She'd act through it, and then she'd move, and the camera would move, and he would move, and it was like. But then we were just like, no, this kind of works because like she is in his shadow until she emerges, and we kind of played with that. And even when she's eating Wayne, she looks up, and it's a gorgeous shot, and we've put Rogan's shadow covering her entire face, which is not it's not cinematography wise the smartest thing to do, but it's like it tells her story and that she's now completely in his shadow. And the same goes with Rogan right before the scene before his end is, and it's right after he can't cut up the body. And it's like that exchange of the knife for the sponge, and the roles have reversed now, and he is between the light, and then he turns his back on the light and his face falls into darkness. He's no longer a human. So that was kind of a fun thing, and metaphorically speaking, dark and light very simply. But the big metaphor was the using cannibalism to express how we eat each other alive emotionally in relationships.
Yeah.
And which I totally agree with, or bad relationships, maybe even good ones, but mostly bad. I mean, because if the relationship's good, you're happy to, you're happy,
Fine.
and you know, and maybe that's why Jack does give it up at the end. Maybe it's this one act of redemption. Um, but yeah, working on that, and then there was other things. I wanted to start this question somewhere else, but then I've gotten distracted completely. Um, so yeah, I working on that. And why? Oh right, why do I write? I don't know why I write female protagonists. That's funny because I only have one script right now. Sorry, I'm writing a second one right now where it's male leads, and I have no clue why. And I've thought about this. I have no like, I don't know if it's more interesting to me or if it's like maybe it's just me kind of like willing my bad decisions on some like she should have reacted this way, and so like I do that. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't quite know why that is. I know it's, I also think just when you're writing a movie, and I tend to write relationship movies, whether that's friend relationships or intimate relationships. I tend to think as a writer, women are more interesting in terms of the fact that they express themselves. Um, Whereas men tend to bottle things up inside, and women bottle things up in a different way.
Yeah.
But I mean, my writing also, I tend to start with trope and then branch out, because I like playing with expectations and then flipping them, which is really what I like to do. So it's like starting out with this like sort of dutiful housewife who's like meets all the or is trying to meet all the criteria, and then flipping that is way more interesting than, I don't even know. I'm just talking out loud because I'm figuring it out as I talk. But anyways, it's something that interests me.
Well, you excel at it. I enjoy your characters very much, and I think if she had been younger, it wouldn't have been nearly as interesting. She wouldn't have had agency, I don't think.
Yeah, it takes out the like a 23-year-old complaining that her boyfriend doesn't want to get, a
Yeah.
family together is not that. I mean, she's got time.
Yeah,
I mean, even when you're 38, you got time, but the time feels different for you personally, I think.
So did her personality, I'm really curious now about how originally there was, the village and a bunch of, already eaten people. How, when you had to get rid of that, did that change a lot of the story or the characters?
Not really. I mean, it changed the way they got the peyote, but that was it because The rest kind of like the hotel room stuff kind of stayed the same. There was the main reason for this village thing was that I hitchhiked around Mexico a lot, and you do end up in these weird little villages, and there's a lot of ghost stories, and you kind of buy into it when you go. It's kind of like weird, in a good way. And then also because at the end I wanted her to return to this village and sacrifice herself, and there was an homage to Todd Brownings's Freaks, where at the end she would be this like half-eaten, disfigured chicken lady begging in the street, and another young couple would come in to buy peyote, and she'd try to warn them, but she can't. She had no tongue and all this stuff. Um, but then I rewrote that because that was just, and then I think the idea of her going home and having sort of a happy button, um, on the end of the film, because it is ultimately it's a weird happy movie, but I mean ultimately she like frees herself and goes home
Yeah.
confidence and ready to take on the world. So in that way it is like a happy ending film, just not for Jack. um
Oh, Jack didn't do himself any favors.
no, but Jack went willingly at the end.
He did. And I do think, going back to that, I think it was the one kind thing he finally did for her. And that was nice. It was appreciated.
And it has an impact because it's like, it's funny because if you're on Letterboxd, there's one person's review and that's all it is are you hungry, and that's it. I was like, that's really intuitive. I love this.
It was really sweet of him. You're like, oh. And yeah, the first time you watch it, you're like, he's a man child, he's a little annoying. But then, when you go into it knowing stuff already, I just thought, oh, I can't wait for her to eat him. He is just not listening to her. And I love it. And then, you said you blended comedy in, and you really did. I just noticed this time the t-shirt she's wearing in the cab on the way home.
Oh yeah,
Whose idea was that?
it's funny, I got that idea when we were shooting the club scene. I don't know why. I thought, because I knew she had to like go home, and I was like, well, what about her? She's covered in blood, and what's she gonna wear? And then it was sort of like an homage to Pulp Fiction, where they end up in t-shirts after cleaning up the blood. So it made sense to me. And it's funny because if you read the Pulp Fiction script, it originally said "I'm with stupid" is one of the options, and the other one is actually what was in the script. And I don't know why they couldn't get the "I'm with stupid," but Sam Jackson has that. Is like, I get the "I'm with stupid" one, which was a good button. Um, so that was like that, and then we printed them out. I remember I literally, while we were shooting the club scene, while they were lighting the club scene, I like got on Photoshop and made that. Literally went on like YouTube, like, how do you put images inside of the type? And then we
Oh.
printed it. Everyone on the crew got a gray version of it. So
Yeah, that was really funny. I didn't notice it originally, and she just with the look on her face, good for her. It's really it's a fun yet in an interesting movie. It's not just
it's
gore, it's
interesting.
not just whatever. There's other stuff going on, and that's what makes it, watchable multiple times. So I loved it, and I appreciate you taking this time.
Thank you. Did you notice that she looks into the camera at the end after that this time?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know how, like, it's funny because it's like one frame both ways, kind of just messed with that one.
No, she was amazing.
Yeah. Kim's a really talented actress. It's,
Well,
I was shot. It was hard working with her because I didn't have to do much.
yeah, she trusted you a lot, is what it feels like.
Yeah. We were both like, it was just, we'd stopped thinking and we just would, after every take, it was just had that feel, and we were always on the same page. So it was nice. But it was like, I'm a director who likes to do a lot of takes, and she would nail it on the second one, and I'd be like, well, I guess we're not doing any more because we don't have any time. So it was like, I got used to that one quickly though.
Well, that's probably was good because then you had more time for the practical stuff, right? Because I thought the practical effects were really good.
Yeah, I mean, that was the first thing that I did with Carlos, was like, there was a lot in it for our small budget, and right away I was like, listen, I want to do less good than more bad. If that makes sense. Like, I don't want to like do a lot of them, as like, but what we do is should look real.
Mhm.
And then that meant I lost out on a big one, that was when they eat Wayne. I wanted her to like rip his tongue out of his mouth, and then do the Lady and the Tramp spaghetti thing, but with the
Oh
tongue.
my gosh.
And that was just not in the budget at all. But it would have been fun. I'll save it for another movie. Although I don't know if I'm going to write quite. I'm not. I don't like. There's two things I don't want to work with again, and I'm headed down this path: is kids and these complex love stories. I'd like to do a movie that's just simple and, but I don't.
I don't think
Just
you can.
once.
Yeah.
I tend to make things complicated.
But that's what's good.
Yeah, I know. But it's like a lot. I mean, especially with the time. Both this one and the sublet was the time. Like the and I don't mean time spent. I mean like tracking what day it was in
Yeah.
the movie was complicated for both. This one more so than the sublet. And a lot of times some of the sublet shots turned into practice for this one in a weird way.
Oh, well, that's
Yeah,
helpful.
yeah, that's what I do. Multitask.
What I do. Well, and the cinematography I want to say is really beautiful. Like, you guys should shoot a Visit Miami video. It's
Yeah, with
ridiculous.
less blood.
Huh?
With
With
less
blood.
blood. Yeah.
No, with it. I love the blood, especially the end with the arm in
Oh yeah,
the
we stopped traffic. Well, that arm on the beach, we stopped. Every single person on the beach would stop and talk to us about it and take pictures with it. It's like right here too. The Jack's arm is still in my office.
That's nice.
But no, we like when she was dumping the body parts, we stopped traffic on the Rickenbacker, and people were like, there was like a huge pool of blood in the water, and she's dropping arms in it. So I don't know what people up on the bridge thought, but
That's funny.
no one did anything. The police drove by and didn't even look at us. So
Okay, well, that's good to know.
yeah, if
For
you're ever dumping bodies, do it in broad daylight, and the police just won't. They'll assume you're a film shoot.
So yeah, any ladies listening, if we have a
Yeah,
husband we need to get rid of, just do it in plain sight.
yeah. Let the sharks take. The sharks feed at night, though. That's what I found out.
Yeah, but that's okay. I mean, we're watching a movie about cannibalism. It's okay. You know what I mean?
You can't eat everything.
You have to suspend a little bit of, was it suspend disbelief?
Yeah, that's what I was. I try to get into the nitty gritty as much as I can. And everyone was like, she can't cut a body up with a steak knife. I was like, she can in this movie.
I think an angry woman can do anything she puts her mind to.
But that's why
So
she's breaking it and snapping it. And like, you ever take a turkey apart, you just like, you got to snap the bone and the cartilage and all that stuff. So,
well, and I love that shot where the camera's actually coming up at her as she's cutting and the blood
yeah,
hit. I love that one. That was really good.
well, it's a fun one for two reasons. One, because it looks really cool and it leads into that fun edit where the noise blends into the plates being tossed.
Yeah.
The second one is because I know that my cinematographer Scott is lying on his back in the bathtub with the camera, and the special effects guy is sitting on top of him with the squirt gun squirting blood. So there's like two grown men around 6 foot tall in a small tub out of frame. It's kind of fun. Yeah.
Well, we're getting yelled at now by Zoom.
All right.
But no, if I could ask one more question,
Yeah.
are you happy to maybe talk about what you hope your next project is?
I made a short called She Came Knocking in 2015, 2017 in there. And I wrote a feature version of that I'm trying to cast right now. And if we do find a actress who can finance the movie, we'll shoot next year. And I'm also at the same time working on a action thriller in the same scenario. We're looking for financing on it. So yeah.
Well, awesome.
Yeah, one of those two or two others. I got 4 scripts out in the world right now looking for homes. So
That's a lot.
yeah, they're
Well,
fun.
good luck on that.
Thank you.
But I really appreciate you talking to me and taking the time. And I am curious, how do you prefer? Do you care if your video's out, or you just want me to transcribe the interview, or
No, I don't care.
both? Okay.
Whatever you want, you do.
Okay. Okay, I'll
Easy.
probably do both. Some people don't want to watch a video, so.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do. I like watching. I like listening.
Yeah, I usually listen, but some people are like, oh, no. And we just got to make it nice for everybody. So
Yeah.
I
What do you use? Do you use something to transcribe?
just use myself.
If you go into, there's free software called Resolve that's like pro editing software. But there's a free version that you can download, and there's like a new transcription feature that you just like literally click a button, and it's about 85% accurate.
Stop.
Yeah, I
Thank
used
you.
it for all my closed captions and everything. It's like amazing.
Oh, thank you. Cause yeah, it can start to take a while, and then you try to go in and take out the ums and the likes, or when
Yeah,
you're the stuff, the superfluous stuff, and then it can really
yeah.
cut into your time.
DaVinci, because when you submit a film to a distributor, you have to do what's called the dialogue list. And that is literally like all the dialogue with the time code when the dialogue starts and when it stops,
Oh
and
my
for the
God.
whole film. And you built a transcript and then I just copy and pasted, and it was crazy. So yeah, Resolve, DaVinci Resolve. It's free and it's awesome. And you can edit a movie on it if you want to.
Oh, sure. I'll just get right on that. I'll do that
Yeah.
this weekend for sure. Okay. Well, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
It was really nice to meet you
You
finally.
too.
Okay. Have a great day.
Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye.